talking about because...
And I'm so sorry I cut you off.
No, it's okay.
I just get like, okay.
No, but it's just like, I've worked at this job, like, I've worked at my job for 8 years.
Really?
I thought I was just going to, I had no idea I was just going to be there for that long. And all of a sudden I wake up one day and I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm dying in this job. Like,
But I'm still here.
I'm
still
still
doing this.
here.
Yeah.
How long have I been here? And it's like almost like the life is being sucked out of me. Do you know what I mean?
Life being sucked out of you? I know exactly what you mean.
So you do hate your job?
I don't hate my job.
Sounds like you hate your job.
No, I don't hate my job. What I don't like is that it's retirement this, retirement that, 401k.
After Hohokam, I stopped being immature and moved into present company with what I thought was a maturity, and then came out the other side of present company being like, oh no, I was just cynical, like I said before. And then starting with Audrey, I was like, what do I have on paper? Like, if you tally me together, like I work nights at the restaurant. I have no money. I live with my mom. I do have people that love me. I got Carrie, and a disintegrating friendship, and a movie that premiered at South by but then went nowhere. I wasn't going out a lot at the time, but when I didn't work and like got to go out, I would, or I'd show up late to things. So like whenever I would show up, people were already drunk, because I had already worked. So, walking into drunk situations, I would say I got a little judgy. Audrey the Trainwreck was a girl that I knew, not in a past life, but more or less. And I saw her, we were at some place, I don't remember where it was, and she was, when people get those eyes where they look at you and you're like, you're not in there. She had that. And, a day or so went by and I was like, did you see her? And somebody said, she's Trainwreck. And that was kind of it. So the movie was just sort of being like, let's take a magnifying glass to everybody else and like reflect it against this kind of flat judging against this person that Danny gets to do at the end. I'm gonna say the movie is the apology for looking at one person and judging him, but but that's the perspective of it. It's like, let's dig a little bit deeper. Like if you haven't been shit-faced like that, like go live a life. Like just because you caught him at this moment doesn't mean all the things you think it can mean. Especially the character Ron is based on was a very unpleasant person, because he was an unhappy person. But he was interesting to me because it was like I'm a couple of decisions away from being him. I'm a couple of things away from being actually unhappy. Like I said before, with Hohokam, looking at Hohokam now, looking at Quietly on By now, looking at Present Company now, it's like, oh, I was like depressed. It took therapy to realize it's like your perspective is warped on all things. So like all these movies are made out of somebody who like doesn't know how to cope with why you should bother carrying on. Like, and that's Ron's thing. So when I looked at like, the characters a lot of people are inspired by, I was like, let's just get them in their routine. And it turned into like my version of just straight up a love story. It turned into my version of boy meets girl love story. And it was about internet dating as it existed at the time. But I didn't want to make a movie about internet dating. There's one computer, there's one shot where you see him on the computer, you deduce it from there, and it was always these 3 dates. And it was just, for whatever reason, these two people wanted to go on a second one. I guess this is why it's my version of boy meets girl. As soon as they start talking, getting along, we cut to two people who seem to be getting along too, but like one's trying to sell the other a house. And that's my perspective on things. Like it's all words, but there's something else going on. I'd already known Lowery from other things, and I already planned on having him shoot something for me because I had watched his short films, which are not like my movies or anything like that, but I could tell we spoke the same language, like the same things interested us, and he did it his way. And ultimately, I love how his short films look in particular. So I figured give him the camera since I had caught so much shit about the way present company looked. It was also kind of an experiment being like, let go of the camera. I will completely let go of the camera, and will this feel like one of my movies when it's done? And I think it feels the most like one of my films, without me on the camera, because, Dave's more competent behind there than me. But the same kind of instincts, if you look at, the kind of, the panning and anticipating and stuff like that, like, again, we have similar sensibilities. You make choices and you just keep going, that's the way I like to work. And at the time, that's the way Dave, worked too. It's like you make a choice and you go forward. I think it was Max Roach who was talking about recording with Monk and how you had to like know your stuff. You do one take, maybe two, maybe three, but then you gotta live with the mistake. And I always liked that attitude. Like I'd rather live with the mistake than go back and reshoot. And we discussed, the shots and how it was going to go. But I never looked through I didn't have a monitor or anything on that shoot. And I'd be like, what are you shooting here? He's like, I'm tied on her face. Like that was kind of always the answer. It's like, well, make sure you're getting the napkin rabbit when you pan. Okay. But Dave just lived with me for like a month and a half is all it was. And he was like, hey, my bills are, I think it was somewhere around $730 or something. He's like, can I have that to just pay, my bills for the month? He was like very much a nomad at the time, like just kind of couch surfing, working on other people's things at the time. Mike Ryan came on to produce Audrey after he read it, to try to find financing for it. My attitude at the time was very much like, well, I'm doing it in October, so that's how much time you have. And Dave approached somebody that he knew for the money, and we got just a check for $10,000, and that was way more money than I'd ever had before. So
Get away from me. You work at an ATM parts place. You tell me that's the same as building homes. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Nothing against you.
Right. I don't care what you think is better than the other. The fact is, you're an asshole. You don't even know my name. You don't say that to me. Only an asshole.
What's my name?
I don't care. I don't know your name. I don't care what your name is. Your asshole works for me. I don't even know. I don't care.
Say asshole one more time. I'll punch you in the fucking dick.
Punch me in the dick. I would love for you to punch me in the dick.
Trish, I'm cool. This guy's got an attitude.
I had edited a movie called Harmony in Me for Bob Byington, and Nick Offerman was in that movie. And he's in a long sequence. There's a lot of footage of Nick playing a cop at the end, and he was hysterical. It was some of the most brilliant ad-libbing I'd ever watched. Like my original cut of all the Nick Offerman and Bill Wise stuff at the end of Harmony Me was like 45 minutes. So he was just really good. And he's from Manuka, which isn't far from where I live and grew up. Like actually our high schools played football against each other. So he was able to come out and, hook up with his family and, drive out to Berwyn for a day to shoot at Michael Anthony's. And that came about because Byington read the script and he was like, you should ask Nick to play David George. So Byington set it up, and he was like, well, I'm good to do a contractor because I have this mustache. He just shot a pilot with Amy Poehler. So he's like, so I need this mustache. So that's why he's wearing it in there. So that's the first Ron Swanson mustache ever seen, I guess, right?
Purchaser.
Please,
Fucking male
please.
pattern baldness.
So, but he was a delight because we were outside blacking out the windows for Michael Anthony's, and he came from behind me and he's like, "What do you need?" I was like, "Oh, hey, start cutting." I gave him a knife. He's hanging black wrap. I didn't have a Stacy. That character was named after my UPS lady that came to my mom's house, and I found out her name is not Stacy. So that was that was sad for me. But Joe called. He was like, "What do you got going right now?" And he was like, Alexi Wasser, who I'd met briefly, and then she sent in a video. So Swanberg hooked that up. She sent in a audition, put herself on tape because I was like, you look amazing, in these pictures that I see of you. It's like you're playing a delivery person. I need to know that you can look like, like the delivery person for my mom was a very pretty woman, but she didn't look like photos of Alexi on, when you Google Alexi's image results. So she put herself on tape, and she wasn't off book. She didn't have it memorized, but she had the gist of all the lines, and she was just doing the gist. And I was like, I like this. I like that she's just going forward, and not looking at the script, not getting the lines right, but she had the right vibe. Like the one thing she brought with her from her trip, she brought like some clothes and Annie Hall. And she was like, that's what this movie is like. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing that. I'm going to watch this, over and over and over again. That's the movie I'm in. And I'm like, that's fine by me. And so, yeah, all those things were really coming together in a really great, pretty scrappy production. We rented a van. We set it up to look like a delivery thing. So there are a bunch of empty boxes and stuff in there. But then we, also kept, the movie in it and the movie equipment in it and stuff like that. It's all in pretty much the same general area. The flower store woman is my friend Danny from, when we were like little kids, like elementary school. His mom owned a flower shop. So I was like, do you mind? And she's like, sure. And I love how she doesn't even look at her. Like, people are so smart. One is my grandpa. And I was like, talk to her about the weather. He's like, you want me to flirt with her? Carol from across the street. So the dog house is actually across the street from my mom's house. And that's Carol. My whole life going there, you knock on the door, just the fucking dogs. I was on the phone with her. I was like, pretend you're on the phone. And she, that's why I'm like, okay, now wave. She's like, because she did not want to do it. There was this point where it's like, we have $10,000, we have money for locations, but we really didn't, and we couldn't get an office. So I made some calls, and I was like, my cousin Rocky would let us use the office. And I was like, how is all this coming together? Like, we didn't pay for, anything.
Right. She's whatever. Right. But I'm not saying she can't do that. I'm just saying that now you've got Aaron's two bomb diggities, and you're trying to like.
Bomb diggity. It's all about because.
The only thing that wasn't coming together, and I was blind to at the time, was me and Tony's relationship as friends was disintegrating, is the way to put it. So that I was just kind of ignoring up until probably the first day of shooting, where he was doing a voice. He was like making a different voice, and I was just kind of like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm trying something different. And I was like, I could have choked him in that moment, because I was like, you're not trying something different. We're going now. We talked about this. You got the goatee. We weren't able to argue to get to another point. So I remember I said to him, I was like, if you don't let who you are without music, and he's a musician, like that person, like that lost person, drift into this character, like into Ryan. If you don't let that come out, we got nothing. And I mean nothing. If you do a character, we have nothing. Being the guy is, he was like, okay, like I get it. Like that's it. And I was like, he's like, dude. And like we just had to stop talking. And you look at the things that he, like how embarrassed he hides his face sometimes in that movie, like from the very beginning, like when he's talking to one person and then they talk to somebody else, and he's, like how many times has that happened to you? You're talking to somebody and they go somewhere else and he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands right now. What do I do with my hands? I mean, Dave's photography really lended itself to letting Tony, be awkward without being a punchline, being uncomfortable without being like, like there's nothing character about it. I think the movie really is strung together over a series of Tony just letting himself be socially vulnerable.
We didn't break up because she cheated on me. We broke up because of the reason she cheated on me. Like, the reason she cheated on me was probably the reason we broke up.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Well, she was bored. She got bored. People get bored. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't get mad. I wasn't pissed. I wasn't
You
like,
didn't get mad.
No, I didn't get mad.
You probably should have gotten mad.
I probably should have gotten mad, but I wasn't. I didn't yell. I didn't scream or anything like that. Why should I have gotten mad?
I don't know.
All right.
But during, over the course of production, the difficulties arise in the way, like, he was treating other people and we were treating each other. And, like that scene, their second date, I think it is, where I was telling you guys, Carrie's in it. She's the witch in the back. He didn't have his lines. And I was I was so angry. I couldn't, like, why don't you know this? Like, it's late. You've had all day. And Carrie came over and she was like, you are the one who is the problem. You are the bad vibe in the room. And I just left. And like Dave, so like Dave shot it. And I was like, how did it go? He's like, I don't know, I just started telling jokes until people were laughing. And then, you know, the fact that I had been with somebody for so long, I'd been with Carrie for quite some time, like, was it 21, 22? Yeah, almost 10 years at that point, you know? And like, what would I be if you took away the one thing in that list of things I had going for me? Like, the most important thing was I had somebody that loved me. If you take away that one thing, I got nothing. So a lot of Ron is me. He might be inspired by somebody, but he's me just lost with nothing else to have, you know? And there's a lot of abstraction in what they're trying to say. And I never wanted them to be articulate. I always feel like the characters who end up being in my movies are people who are having a deep existential crisis, but don't know what an existential crisis is. Those are my guys. Those are my people. You know, whenever I tell people about what the movie I'm making, they say, why don't you just follow me around with a camera all day? You know, like, that's what people say. And it's like, that's what I'm trying to do, but I don't want to follow you around with a camera all day. It's about two people trying to survive every day, and they kind of find each other. And it's like, well, we're both trying to survive. Like, let's have each other's backs. You know, I don't think it registered with me until the moment I was editing it. And they have that first kiss and then the train goes by. Some call it luck, I call it style. And I had John's music, and he kind of reaches forward, gives her a little boop, and I dropped John's piano under that. I was like, oh, it's a love story. And then jumping over the puddle, picking up the coat, you know, those sorts of things. You know, and the way Dave shot that whole movie, you know, like his words were he wanted it to look like it was deteriorating, like it was about to, like, disappear. That was his perspective on it. And then he crammed the frame so much that we actually, if you watch the movie on a screen, it's pushed back a little bit. We pushed it back so underscan wouldn't cover any of it because there was so much information. It's not shot like a love story, is I guess what I should say, you know, but it is in there. The whole idea of Audrey the Trainwreck or These Things Happen in Threes was the accusation that my movies don't have plot. The you know, being told it's, you know, shaggy dog stories or whatever you want to call them. Like, I think the stories unfold in a way that is interesting, but These Things Happen in Threes was a way to set up, like, you know, a gun going off is to put the you know, the two accidents and then just be waiting for the third one the whole time. And then so it was always just a joke to be like, here's what you're waiting for. Here's the information. Here's your plot. Here's what a plot is. You know, like, we set it up here and here and blah, blah, blah. We go through it and like, oh, look, just like we told you in the beginning, here's how it's going to end.
This whole time I'm looking at her and I'm like, how do I know this mess? But she looked so familiar, but I couldn't think of her name or how I knew her. And so I'm staring at her.
So, I don't know. I'm not proud of it, but Audrey not being named or tagged in the credits was just me being a dick again. Instead of just saying Audrey, you know, Allison Lotta, you know, Princess Drunk Dancing, instead of just doing it, I just didn't. And what I wanted was for critics to take the leap. And some of them did. You know, some in there, it's like, you know, the seeing an old friend that they don't remember the name of, Audrey, in parentheses, I was like, there you go. You know, that's how you do it. I wanted them to make the leap without being told. But if you watch the movie, when the guy's name is James Flynn, who's flirting with Audrey, he asks her name, and you see Allison mouth, I'm Audrey. And it's pretty clear if you watch. So she says it. She yells it into the ear, I'm Audrey. But, so it was always going to be under that guise of, here's a movie called Audrey the Trainwreck about this person who's just one moment in it. It's kind of like naming your movie after the city in which it takes place, right? Like Philadelphia isn't Philadelphia, but they call it Philadelphia, you know, or like name any other movie where they name it after the city that they're in. So I think that's what it is. I mean, the world this takes place in is Audrey the Trainwreck.
Scotch.
You've heard of it. The Rum Diaries by Hunter
That's a, is a single malt or a double? I know.
It's a blend. You wanted to sleep with
It's like a diet
Anyways,
scotch.
you know, you should read it. It's
The idea of feeling alone in a crowd. Like, that's a big part of Audrey. Like, Ron comes in and, like, there's, the board game scene going on. Like, he is alone. He's around these people, but he's alone. At the opening scene in the bar where they're playing darts, like, he is by himself until somebody invites him there, you know. He's an island, you know, unto himself. So, like, a lot of Audrey is, there's nothing worse than being in a crowded room and feeling all alone, you know. And Alexi, when she goes to the bridal shower that she's late for, it's like, oh, hi, you know, and all this, he's so happy to see you, but it's like, nobody's talking to her, you know. Is it like, you're what? You know, like, how can I chime in? You know, like, those moments kill me. They're fucking torture. There was no sound guy on the movie. That's another way. There's another funny production. Like, I was a sound guy. As far as the overlapping dialogue, people talking over each other, or just the chaos of those things, that's what I like. In a lot of ways, I would watch that for the longest amount of time. Like, that's what home movies kind of look like to me. Like, that looks like nobody's ever. I'm from a family where nobody ever lets you finish your fucking sentence. So it's just like, it's weird to me that they do in movies. They're always like executing rational conversations, and it's like, I have no interest in that. Like, that does not represent, you know, life to me. Like, I've watched movies where characters say things that are so smart, it's like, you just should have written that down. Like, we didn't need the there. Like, if you're just going to tell us, you know, this you know, insightful thing about feelings, like, just put it in a book. You know. Also, like, there is a lot of just two people sitting down and talking, whether or not they're talking over each other, whatever it is. It's like, you know, that's what the movies have to be. Like, that's the limitations that I work in. So every chance you can get to have, you know, a little bit of chaos, a little bit of excitement in, you know, these layered people talking all over things. So let's just do it. Those are my action sequences. Those are my set pieces. You know, at the shower, there's like 4 people there. But that's my mom and like my mom's friends, you know, who I call Auntie. But it's like, they make a room loud. And I was like, just talk, just keep going. I'll be shooting, you know, whatever, and it'll be fine. You guys just keep going. And then the girls were talking to them. So Sasha, Tammy, Jenny, they were there. My Auntie Carmi, my Auntie Lou, Sharon was there, Benita was there, and my mom, Carmela, was there too. And like, that's it. But I mean, so I just, you know, shoot close, keep it nice and loud. They actually orchestrated, when they ask where the cake is from in that scene, and she says Sarno's. Like, my mom's friend, my Auntie Lou, she grew up in a bakery, Sarno's. It's not there anymore. But they like were like, hey, we'll ask you where the cake is from, and you say Sarno's. You know, it's Sarno's, you know. And I like, cut. You guys are great. I can't believe you did that. That's so cute.
Excellent. So what next?
Well, they're filing suit. We were hired by an attorney to figure out what caused the accident.
You pick up a lot of that from shooting in live places too, you know, in the early movies. Like, a lot of times there would be people talking, you just got to deal with it, you know, music on, just got to deal with it. And I remember thinking it was kind of like ragtag sort of. I remember reading Murch's book where he talks about how for that wedding, all the wedding stuff in The Godfather, they laid music over it and it just looked dead. So they went back and pulled and tied together all the audio that was from there on, you know, on set, because it was alive, you know. And I've had to, you know, I had a sound guy in Blue Mud Shuffle. We could talk about Blue Mud Shuffle. It was my first time having a real sound guy, and I was like, I need it to feel alive. It is dead in here. Like, I need these people talking over each other. I need, you know, the chaos. I don't care if those alarms are going off. I will worry about it later. We will run that sound, but I need the sound, you know. Those are the things I think about when I set up a scene. You know, like, where is this dead where it can be alive?
She had to get off her cell phone. And I'm like trying to explain it to her very nicely, but I'm sure I got a little bit of attitude. Thank God. She was
Scotty.
What?
What are you're going off on? I can't follow you, man. Like, you were talking about something else. Talk about that.
God, I don't even remember. Shoes. Yes,
Okay,
shoes. So I'm
shoes.
walking past security.
Well, I think I write scripts in such a way that if there are questions for rehearsals, they should be answered in the script. Audrey might have been like the first script I wrote as somebody who needed to write a novel, and not a movie. I think it started there.
So I'm walking past security, and there's these two kids with their parents, and the kids are taking their shoes off. And the little kid, he asks why. And the mom answers him, she goes, "'Cause that's the rules." And it was something about the way she said it, or maybe about the way he asked, like, he was being so innocent, but not like innocent, like he was curious. Like he just wanted to know. And all I could think about is like, oh my God, it's such a shitty world, and it's just not worth it. Like
when we first shot that scene, it wasn't tight. And we came back the next day. Like, get on book, make your choices, and we need to shoot exactly that. Like, we need to have you guys on top of each other, because these, like, 10 pages, this is a play. These 10 pages. It's you guys sitting here, and, like, the beats, like Piglet and all this stuff need to play out in such a way that it needs to be tight. This can't be 15 minutes of rambling and joking around. This is a point that's being made. I was traveling a lot for present company, and going through airport security, there was a mom who told the kid to take off his shoes with a real, because I said so kind of way. And this had never happened to me before. But I was just watching him, and I was like, wasn't really thinking. I was just, just sort of observing it or whatever, and then going through security, and then the security guy was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "My belt?" And I was like taking off my belt, but I was full crying. I was completely sobbing. Something was hitting me so aggressively and I was so helpless to do anything about it. In treating Scott's experience with that a little differently, where he's able to say, "I feel bad for this kid who doesn't know a world before taking off your shoes," and then tying it to Ron's, my other problem of not being able to get out of a rut because eventually everything's fine. It was originally sort of like, when you get drunk with your friends and you solve all the problems, you just fix all the problems. Like, everything is lucid, because you got a couple of beers and you fix everything. That's what that moment is on the back porch there. And then it goes on to the next day, and you try it again, but like, I wanted something to preserve those two feelings of, those, like, Scott's side of it, where it's like, I can't control the world that I live in or where other people are going to grow up in, and Ron's version of it, which are both two sides of me being like, I'm unhappy and I don't know how to fix it. Just coming together in a conversation where they do kind of fix it. We're like, everything's okay for a little bit because we're talking about it, because we're talking about it. You see, that's when I should have known I need to go to therapy. I didn't touch the movie for about 3 months after we finished. We finished shooting, got through the holidays, and then I was working again at the restaurant New Year's Eve. I would watch a little bit of footage every day, and I set up my desk so I was standing because, I don't know, it just seemed like healthier. Like, if I was standing, I wouldn't just be, miserable, looking at all this stuff. Do you know how when you sit down and then you just sort of like touch it, mm-hmm. but it sounds good? Like, I don't want to have to like fade up music,
So you want to start behind when they're still doing the card game. You want to kind of just go back.
You find that the piece that we've been playing around with, like, you find that on there and then play it from there.
I think so. The finding of it is part of it.
Finding of it's part of it, absolutely. From even the beginning of doing Present Company, I had, or finishing Present Company, I contacted Medeski for the first time to score Present Company. and we had already had a premiere, and so it was like, I think he watched the movie and like, I dig it, I just can't, I don't have time to do it right now. Next time let me know sooner, and I did. So when we did Audrey, he was on, you know, the early emails, hey, I'm going to be doing this movie in October. Working with him was so great because I just didn't want to sound stupid, and he was like, just keep talking, unless you're going to play the piano, just keep talking, you know?
Everything makes sense. Okay. Right? You know, it's like, no, just say what you, I will learn your language.
I like running.
You know, it's you know, it's, yeah, I mean, unless you're going to tell me to play this note, there's no other way to do it other than to say what you're feeling.
Right,
so,
right.
So just explain how you feel. I'm getting a feeling for it. The more you talk, the more I feel it.
Okay, and then, again, like, meet your heroes, because I was like, I told him Charlie Brown, you know, like, I want to be like Peanuts, like how they use music in Peanuts. He was like, cool. And I had people who wanted to know what I was working on after Present Company. People wanted to know what was next. People wanted to find money, give me money, work with me in a way that I wasn't used to. And it all got handled really, really well. And there was this element after production was over that I had let everybody down. You know, between, you know, like me and Tony's personal problems, and just the people who flew out, and it was a tough shoot, and, you know, trying to drive Alexi to a rap party covered in fake blood, you know, and just like losing my footing in a way that was so difficult. And then to cut the thing together and just not know what to make of it. You know, I sent it to other people, and I remember like being on the phone with Dave, and he had the drive in front of him, and we were doing cuts where he's like, oh, go back 4 frames. Okay, cut there. You know, like just specific things. Again, working with filmmakers thing, and then getting the music in, and it, you know, I got the call from Janet, it's going to premiere. It's like 2 in a row premiere at South by, you know, and that was a great year at South by too. The Gene Siskel Film Center programmed it, and I went with Carrie and my sister-in-law Kristen. And the great thing about my sister-in-law Kristen is she knows when a movie's too long, and she knows by how much. It's this tick. Like, she will finish watching a movie like Moneyball. She'll be like, that was too long. I was like, what are you going to take out? She's like, I don't need him driving in the truck. I'm like, you need him driving in the truck to show, like, that's where he comes up with all the things. It's the transitionary moments are all in the truck when he's driving alone. She's like, don't need it. And then you go back and watch it, and you're like, you could probably shave off a little bit of stuff in the truck, actually. So I remember walking out of the theater, and you know, and you got to bear in mind, like, Carrie is going through all this stuff with me, you know, talking about all this, the sadness and the deteriorations of relationships. Like, she's there with me and all this stuff. And we walk out of the theater, and I didn't want to go anywhere. I just kind of wanted just to go home. I think we went somewhere for a drink or something. But we walk out, and Kristen goes, that wasn't too long. And I was like, Kristen. You know, and the movie plays so well in a crowd. Like, there were big laughs. And, you know, I was teasing Kristen about it, about how flattered I was that it wasn't too long. And Carrie said, it's good, Frank. Tell you what, you're good. That's what it comes down to. Like, anytime you're, you know, I will support you, because that is just good. That's what I remember from that movie. You know, like, I could remind her about it now, and she'd be like, I never said that. But, you know, but it happened. And, like, so that was what that movie was for me. It was a culmination of just, like, the you know, the dreamer in me, that, you know, like, my head is in the clouds, and I'm like making movies, and actually feet on the ground, they're pretty good.